Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 56 of Bucs UK TV, the episode that nearly didn't happen when we'd all finished watching the game, but we're going to put a brave face on it. Graeme and John are back again, and for the first time, we're joined by Alex. Hello.
Hi, how are you? All right?
Good, thank you. Now, anyone who's a Bucs UK member will probably know who you are, but for those watching who maybe aren't Bucs UK members, who's Alex? And how did you become a Bucs fan?
Oh, like a lot of us, I'd imagine. It was a Florida holiday with the family back in 1996, I think. We went over, did the Disneyland thing that everybody does, and I picked up a Bucs jersey while I was there, and it was kind of started an interest. And then, like all of us, it just grows into somewhat of an obsession. Whereas 2:30 in the morning, you're still watching us usually do our thing, not so much this week, but and yeah, so I live in Bristol, or I'm born and bred in Bristol, and live nearby now. So long time Bucs fan, long time Bucs UK member. Used to write for the website and stuff as well with some bits. So yeah, played a bit in my day as well. So all good.
And who is it that you played for?
I played for a Bristol Aztecs and a Bristol Apache.
So there you go. Big shout out to those guys. We'll see if we
Indeed.
can try and, I don't know, tag it in the description or something cool like that. John's, let's not get into Britball, as it's there's going to be enough infighting in this episode as it is. And this is the Christmas episode. Merry Christmas, everyone. If you're watching this as you're eating your Yule log, you might want to maybe finish it before you, or just fast forward to about halfway through. But in the meantime, we will take a festive look back at the last Bucs game. Now, Graeme, let's come to you first. How would you sum up? I know there's a YouTube channel I watch with Colin, the Herd. He sums up every game in 3 words. Let's go around and see if we could think of 3 words to sum up the game, Graeme. We'll start with you.
The 3 words I would use are not repeatable. Not repeatable on the Bucs podcast, quite frankly. Absolute. No. I don't know. It's one of those games. Can you write it off just as one of those games? I don't know. It was a bizarre episode. I didn't get too upset while I was watching the game. I just watched it transpire and unfold and couldn't really understand what was happening. Just every facet of the offense didn't seem to click, didn't seem to work. And then the injuries that came one upon the other. It was just such a bizarre game.
There you go. A bizarre game. That's Graeme's 3 words. Then, John, I presume you're going to agree.
It was bizarre, that's for sure. If it's 3 words, I mean, talk about putting us on the spot. I'm pretty sure Colin Coward has like hours to prepare for this one. I'll go with the shocking injuries. Give me a third one, Alex. Go on. Direct to you.
I wonder if it was being found out, question mark.
Oh, that's good.
Ooh.
A bit like Super Bowl 55. Everyone sort of says that's the game that broke the Chiefs. You reckon this could be the one that broke the Bucs?
I just thought it showed that maybe we're becoming a little bit predictable offensively. I know anybody that loses those 3 guys is going to be a big problem, but I think we start to look like, you run it, you put it for Gronk on a 3rd down. Brady's going to sneak on the 3rd and short. Not necessarily you can stop it, but I certainly think people are starting to scheme against it. And you've seen it in weeks coming and weeks past that we're not quite as explosive as we were in those areas. And we've gone back and we're trying to vary it. But this week, I thought we got found out by a team that regularly causes us problems.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it, Graeme? It's always against the Saints. If there's a team you want to beat, it's the Saints.
Absolutely, yeah. I know Alex saying we were a bit predictable, but even the sneaks. I mean, Brady had an opportunity for a quarterback sneak to get 1st down and didn't take it. And as you saw, and it was well described by the commentators, the ground opened up in front of him. If he had tried it, he would have got the 1st down. We threw the ball to Gronk any number of times. I think it was 11 targets, and he only caught 2 of them. On any other day, he's catching 6, 7, 8 of those balls. What enough? Just that everything went wrong, everything that could go wrong. And I agree also with Alex that we're a little bit found out. I think the Saints know how to play us fine, but just everything that could go wrong went wrong. Even the play calling, and I'm the biggest fan of Byron Leftwich, but when they finally find holes for Rojo, just seem to abandon the run game completely. And I don't know. I just don't know how to sum that one up.
I think you're right. And all year long, it's been Lenny and Rojo. We've struggled to establish the run. Yes, there's been some games, and yes, we've made some noise about it. But back in the day, you know, when it was Montana and others, they used to talk about passing the ball to set up the run. I mean, John. So like Graham's sort of put some of the blame there on Byron Leftwich's shoulders. Do you think it's X's and O's?
I mean, from an offensive planning standpoint, if you game plan for a team, and then you lose your top 2 pass catchers, and then you lose your top running back who you've been like dumping off to all year, who's clearly a big part of the game plan. To change those 3 is massive. And we got found out on the weekend when you lose Godwin and Evans, and you got Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller trying to come in and step into their shoes. And the Saints just played their scheme. They played cover 2 all day, man press. And those 2 weren't strong enough to get off the man coverage. And you saw Brady drop back, look right, look left. And next thing you know, Cam Jordan's in his face. So you said about found out. Well, great, that's the theory. But in previous games, people tried to do that. But with Godwin and Evans, you've got 2 guys that can beat the man coverage. So it's beatable. And if we've got time to talk about it later on, like the scheme in the overall NFL now, it's how you stop the Chiefs, how do you stop the Bills, how do you stop the Chargers? All these teams, it's deep cover 2, man coverage underneath. And the explosive offenses haven't been able to stay patient. We have, and that's why Lenny's caught 10 balls a game, because the defense has bailed out and protected the deep stuff. And we've gone, and Brady is amazing at it. He just takes what you give him. But this weekend, there was nothing to take. It was just all covered. And I hate to say it, but credit to the Saints for being able to execute it, unfortunately. And
Alex, as Graham said, you know, there was lots of times where it was 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 3rd and 3 or something, and we're trying to chuck it 30 yards down the field. But as John points out, the one thing they're not going to give us is the deep ball.
I think, bizarrely, watching the game back, I think that the person we may have missed the most once Fournette went down was Gio Bernard. I think that would have been an ideal person to step into that role. He's come in, he's an unspectacular signing, not like all the other superstars we brought in. And if we'd have had him to drop into that role, I think he picks up, crikey, 10 receptions in the second half. I think Brait was underused. I think those things, we look for Gronk because obviously that's Brady's go-to guy, but I think Brait is more than capable of catching balls in no traffic and all that sort of thing. And I think those 2 should have, or one it would have been and one could have been, utilized better.
I think that's true. And I think, as you say, John, if they're going to take away the deep part of the field, then I think you have to play everything like you're in the red zone. Every down you're in, you're playing in the red zone. And of course, that's where Brait earned his money. That's why he's, 4th or whatever he is in all-time touchdowns for the Bucs. It's because he's whenever you're looking for some short yardage, he's there. So we'll come on and talk about the other 3 phases of the ball, but we just need to get the pain out of the way. So I'm assuming everyone is spending their magic wand and going to wave it right up Byron's nose. So kind of what are the if you're going to wave your magic wand and do one thing to improve next week, and you're only allowed to do one thing, what's it going to be, Graham? Let's start with you.
Well, I've got 2, but if you're only giving me one,
you can have both ends, like a bow stick. Or
yeah, kind of like that. I think to be honest, the thing that freaks me out the most about the weekend there is injuries. I've got to get the injured players fit. I know Godwin's gone for the year now, which is just such a huge loss. But to drop any one of the 3 or 4 guys we had there at the start of the season, you think we could live with it. So bringing AB back, getting Evans back, and Scotty Miller in there. We've got a chance, but we need to get Evans back. We need to have either Evans or Godwin has to be there. I think Sunday night proved that we need Evans. So it's an injury magic wand.
So let's stick with that. Just hold the second one for a minute, because that's the first time someone's mentioned AB. So quick straw poll again. We'll start with you, Graham. If you're Bruce Arians and you haven't had your receivers going down injured, do you bring AB back, or is he out the door?
He's in right now. I totally agree with him. Who cares what anyone else thinks? It helps the team get him back. That 100%. I wouldn't have said that 2 weeks ago. But right now, he's in.
You agree with that, guys?
Yep. I think, I think, as Graham said quite rightly, it's about public perception. I mean, Arians made a big deal about saying this is just one chance, kid. You're out the door if you do it again. It can't have been a much bigger mistake than what he's done. It was a poor choice at best. but needs must, and even must even more after the weekend.
Yeah.
I think if you lose Godwin but you gain AB and you can get Evans fit, we stand a chance. But if you lose both of them and you let AB go, it's suicide.
So Graeme, so your second wand wave.
I felt the offensive line was kind of pushed around a bit, and that's the first time that I could say that in the last 2 seasons. So my magic wand is for the offensive line to return to form, find their mojo again. And I had a bit of an argument online with someone who said that wasn't the case. But to me, every time I watch highlights and look at clips from it, I just see guys getting pushed backwards when that hasn't happened all season. So I just feel for whatever reason, on this one occasion, again, it's another one of these so many things. If it could go wrong, it went wrong. That's another one. So the offensive line to step back up. Our season lives or dies with that offensive line. If they can't keep Brady on his feet, then we're finished. So to me,
you're right.
Offensive line has just got to be 100% every week.
And all year long, it's been the pass protection that they've done well at. And it's been the run blocking that's been more suspect. But I guess on a game where we've said we are targeting Gronk 11 times and he's catching it twice, maybe actually just give up on Gronk, just bring him in and let him pass block, because he does that bloody well as well. And stick. Then there's 2 guys in Cam's face every play. Maybe that buys us a bit more time. John, what's your wand action gonna improve?
I mean, if it was only one thing, the only one thing that stood out was the hit on Godwin. End of, like, it's not just to improve for next week. That's the season, man. So that was my one thing that stood out. I assumed we'd all have the same one, to be honest.
Well, it's a one, not a time turner. I don't want to get too Harry Potter on you, but cool. Yeah. So we want to try and. I mean, do you think the Saints were deliberately tackling low?
Oh, the same guy did it twice, didn't he? Didn't he hit Gronk later below the knee?
Gronk had a couple of plays where I saw where he pulled up as well, where he saw they were going low.
Gronk's been complaining about that since his junior days, because you're not allowed to hit in the head. And if you take someone like Gronk in his upper body, he just runs over you. So they all go for the legs, and it's definitely a growing trend. Well known.
Yeah. It's a growing trend in the NFL. You see the smaller cornerbacks and the safeties coming down into the box. I mean, Antoine Winfield's a prime example. You're not, as John quite rightly says, you're not going to run over a Travis Kelce. You can chop him, and that's the only way you stop them when they catch a pass. So it's almost, I'd imagine, what they're being taught in camp is to how you stop these, because the tight ends are such a big part of NFL offenses now.
Okay, Alex, your magic one moment.
I like Graeme. You could pick a couple, but I think it's between Fournette and Evans. Taking aside what you said about Godwin going back in time, it's between Fournette and Evans. I said on the forum a couple of games ago, we lose Brady or we lose Lenny, the season's over. You've lost Godwin, which was probably a close third. I think you do. If you don't have Evans in the lineup, though, I think you lack a number one receiver, even with AB back. I think they're easier to cover. They're all of a size. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Fournette, Evans, given how Rojo was running the weekend as well.
Yeah.
Okay. My last one waving is going to be squarely at Byron. Just play cool based on who's on the field. There were so many plays where that play would be great if it was Godwin, but it's not. It's Johnson, so you've got to throw it differently. It's got to be a different call. And I would hope at that level of the game that we're able to differentiate based on who's on the field.
You would think so.
Maybe I'm going to defend the offensive coordinators here. I'm going to say when you've got your game plan, if one guy goes down, you can generally adjust. 2 guys go down, and then you get the third go down as well. I mean, life becomes extremely difficult, especially when you've got, like you said, you've got your X and O's drawn up against the Saints for a certain scheme. You know they're going to play it. They're going to play, come with 4, man up, and you've got your plays to beat that. And then all of a sudden, you're asking you're telling the receivers, look, this is the play, beat your man.
Moving on from a shutout, and we'll start talking about other phases of the game. Maybe let's take a breather and dip into something a bit more comfortable on the defensive side of the ball. Alex, I think generally we're more content about the D.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be fair, you held that Saints offense, which, albeit was missing a few people, but Kamara in particular, to 9 points. It didn't score a touchdown. I think the defensive line generally played well and got pressure on Hill. And I think that'll be important coming the weekend. The secondary gets Edwards back this weekend as well, which will help. Although Jamal Dean looks like it could be out again, but I think that helps the rotation. And I think generally, if we can keep that level of pressure up, we can stop teams. We still got the best linebackers in the league, and I think our secondary, when fully fit, is pretty good as well. The weekend's job was made incredibly hard for him, and you can't dress it up any other way, obviously.
Yeah, I think Joe Tryon maybe showed a little bit this week with his speed came into play 3 or 4 times. You saw him chasing all the way across the field and pulling the guy down. So I think he's starting to come into his own, and he's got a big breakout coming. I think he's going to get.
There's definitely a player there.
Yeah. Top player. Yeah.
John, on the defensive side, what was there to praise and pour over?
I mean, to stop any team to 9 points is basically stunning. We can't complain at that. I mean, I mentioned on social media, I mentioned to one of my friends just before we came on this call, my one minor negative point about defense was Adams' dropped interception in the fourth quarter. I mean, that it would have been the last chance hurrah to go down and score a touchdown to win the game. 6-0 down, they're in field goal range, and you get that chance to make that play. I mean, in the playoffs against Green Bay and New Orleans last year, we made that play. I just hope that when it comes to the important game later in the year, that we make the play that next time. Because that drop was it was in his hands. It was there. It was there. Yeah. Saints and Bucs. It's becoming a hell of a rivalry, and unfortunately, we keep coming out on the right side of the good ones, right?
Not so much a rivalry, John. I think that scarf in the background was in the stadium the last time we beat the Saints.
I'll take the two Super Bowls versus their one in the playoffs. Yeah. I'll take that one.
It's a good point. Graeme, we might end up seeing the Saints again this year.
It's lining up, isn't it? It's just lining up for us to be the seeded to play the Saints in the first round of the playoffs. But it will be at our place. Well, that's good or not sure. I just my just little concern and echoing what the guys have said defensively. You're not going to complain about 9 points. You're not going to complain about 210, 12 yards. Of the other team's offense. That's all really, really good. Just maybe you want a turnover here or there. We didn't have anything in the game, and I'm just fearing that if we don't win the next 3 games, if we don't win out the rest of the season, that we're kind of maybe going to be reversing into the playoffs, where last year we were absolutely rolling downhill, full steam ahead, winning everything out of sight, and really looking good getting into the playoffs. Yeah. So just the feeling is just a little bit, not quite where it was last year, but maybe that's just because our expectations are that much higher following last year. So I really think that, and I know we'll talk about next week's game, but I think the next 3 weeks are really important that we win all 3 and take a bit of momentum into the playoffs now. But defensively, I think we're looking really, really good. And I'm as I mentioned earlier, so pleased that Joe Tryon Shoyinka is coming into his own. He's not made the big splashes. He's not got like 20 sacks or whatever some other guys have got, but he is in the backfield every single time. He's disrupting plays. He's disrupting quarterbacks. I think he's a tremendous player, and he's a real asset for us in the future years.
Well,
I think what you
go on, Alex.
I was going to say, I think what you hope with something like that is as well that he is just picking JPP's brain all day, every day. What can I do? How do I do that? How do I get that off? And even Shaq. I mean, there's people there. JPP is one of the best to ever do it from the position, probably certainly over tenure. You'd love to think that they're just constantly just drilling information into him all day, and if he's a student at a game, he should be a hell of a player next season.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah,
and actually, up front, you could make the case that did Shaq have a quiet game, did Stu have quiet, but as a unit, I think they got the job done. I think
you're never going to see all of them making all the big splash plays every week, but every week one of them's going to do it. You can rely on that, and that's a great position to be in.
You mentioned, Kieron, about Shaq and JPP being a bit quiet on Sunday. In my opinion, that's because that was the scheme they were playing. They were trying to keep Taysom Hill in the pocket. They were actively not beating their man to try and maintain the lane integrity. So I saw that criticism on social media a few times. I thought, oh God, that's just talking for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Like, you work as a unit. They worked as a unit. It was awesome.
And it was the same thing with Surveyor for Kamara. It was don't blow the hole because he'll be past you. So it's just hold the gap. You're absolutely right. So that leaves us 1/3 of the ball to discuss. And as you know, I care about this third of the ball deeply. This was the worst special teams I've seen us play since Dilfer was wearing that shirt behind Alex.
I mean, from the missed field goal to, I did feel for Pinion the weekend. I mean, there was a couple of real dodgy punts, but by the time you've punted 9 times or whatever it was, anybody's going to be a bit exhausted on that front. But coverage-wise, they did okay. I mean, the punt coverage was decent, the kickoff was decent, and we nearly broke one. And he came very close to reversing the field and going, and then slipped over. And I think all of us watching live or afterwards went, "This is and it was gone. One slip of the foot, and he was. Otherwise, I think he could have taken it. I think he was clear.
That sums up our special teams. We nearly broke one.
We nearly broke one. 30 years later, we're going, remember the one?
Yeah. Michael Spurlock. I still remember it at some point.
Yeah. I mean, right. John, do you agree with Alex? Do you think Darden's got it in him?
That's a no.
haven't seen it yet. Like, I hope so. I'm hoping we finally find someone, because that was what I wrote down in my notes. It was like we didn't break one. We didn't get through and get that big return to maybe have that momentum changing play. And that's the beauty of special teams. If you can get that big return, whether it be even 50 yards or to flip field position, momentum can change. And in a game that's only sort of 6-0, 3-0, that's massive. I mean, we just want more consistency. If you can get 5 yards every time, no, let's turn it into 15, 20.
I think make it easier. The thing that gets forgotten this week in terms of the Brady and all that was the missed field goal. A crucial time, he knocks that through. It changes momentum
6-3.
again.
Yeah.
6-3.
6-3.
It's not the panic-stricken last drive we've got. He doesn't throw the last pick because he's not trying to force the ball. It's a different game. You can keep running the ball. Even with backups, you can keep running the ball. Rojo was running it well, but we had to move away from that when it went to 9. It's a big miss. And to be fair, he's not missed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be laying into Brady this week. I think we all understand it's okay. You don't have to be the GOAT every week, and you shouldn't be expected to be. It's we're all human. So you've heard what we've got to say about it, but obviously John and Alex have mentioned being on the forum during the game. Some of us were there until about 4:30 in the morning, wondering what we'd been doing with our existence. So we'll take a view at what your comments were. So our first comment is from Pete. When anyone gets some sort of understanding of what just went on, can you please let me know, because I'm completely baffled. I think we were all a bit dumbstruck at certain points of that evening. Although
that could be from anybody on the offense as well, I would imagine. From a T Brady Tampa. Yeah.
Next up, Johnny Orwell. 4 plays defined that game: the missed field goal, Brady fumbling, Gronk not realising the ball was there, and a 30-yard pass attempt when you only need a yard on 4th down. Byron keeps having these games. We picked up on some of those ones.
I think, as John quite rightly says, you can scheme. You can scheme to level 2, level 3, level 4. Sometimes I think we underestimate how many calls Brady makes. I think Byron can send it as many plays as he wants. If Tom's not going to run it, he's not going to run it. And so you have to assume that he's seen something, and sometimes it works. A nice check down. Sometimes he sees Gronk's got a good release, throws the ball. Gronk don't even see us there. So I don't think it's all on Leftwich at all.
I'm sticking on a failure of execution. The guys that had to step up were the second and third stringers, and they didn't step up. Let's see what they do next week and going forward.
Yeah,
good call. Then we've got Phil. The morning after, the night before, and maybe a bit of perspective. The D still played well. Only 3 plays went 10+ yards, I think, and we held them to only 3 field goals. Surely the O won't play that poorly again. Hope the injuries aren't too severe. Who wants a bye anyway? More Bucs football to enjoy. That's what we like. Glass half full. Well done, Phil. And then lastly from Wayne. So, who won this week's competition? Which is a nice segue. I'm so glad I'm not doing the competitions this year. Shout out to our good friend Adam. Thank you very much for doing that. Adam picked what time was going to be on the clock when the Bucs score. He's jinxed it. So we thought it was only fair to have a wheel of names off. And so we're going to have a wheel of names for who wins the competition. I think we've got 43 people on the wheel of names. This is the largest wheel we've ever had. So bear with me, and then we shall spin the wheel for what is actually quite a cracking prize. Okay, so here we are. You can see all 43 people on the wheel. If you can see yourself on the wheel, I wish you luck. If you can't see yourself on the wheel, you've only got yourself to blame. All you had to do was enter this week. You could have been as wrong as everybody else. So I wish you all luck. Here we go. Can you hear that Christmas Eve music?
Yeah. Christmas Eve.
Everyone's free choice. Oh, it's Jack, I think. One of Wayne's sons. Congratulations, Jack. I think you got a T-shirt. I think you got a program. And there was something else. I can't remember what something else is, but it's yours. So well done. So that's enough about the ghost of Christmas past. We are now on to the ghost of Christmas future. We are traveling to Carolina to take on the Panthers. So, Alex, maybe if we start with you first. The way we normally do this is we talk about our keys to the game, and then we'll go into some of the players to watch, and ultimately the score we're predicting. But just first of all, then, overall, what do you think this game's going to turn on? What's going to be the main facets?
I think it's the unpredictability. Well, I mean, slightly of us, but certainly of Cam Newton. I think he hasn't looked anything special since coming back. Certainly in the passing game, they do give up sacks because of the nature of the player he is, but he is capable of those flash plays. And if we don't stick to what, as we said earlier, with gap integrity, with edge defense, if that's how we're going to play him, he can still hurt you. I think offensively, we just have to get ourselves back on the same page. I think they are decently ranked defensively. I think it's a slightly false position. But I think if we execute our game plans, I think we should run out relatively comfortable winners, I think, in the end.
Okay, so first key to the game then, Cam. And, maybe we can try and get him benched for the 20th time this year or something. We'll see what happens. He's like a yo-yo out there. He's got a string on his back, hasn't he? John, what's your key to the game?
How does our offense adapt to the adversity? I mean, we've spoken about these injuries. We've spoken about the change in personnel. Do we protect Evans for the playoffs? Ideally, yes. But, I mean, you guys have mentioned already, we might actually need him to be that number one receiver. But if Leftwich has now got a whole week to plan to use Johnson, Miller, Rojo, now let's see what he can do. And, of course, AB's back as well. So it's how does this effectively a brand new offense, right? I mean, so for me, it's that against a defense that is half decent. So I think the other side of the ball, I'll let Reedy go first before we come on to destroying Cam.
Go on then. Graeme, key to the game?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Alex. If Cam Newton's playing, I mean, I think there's a bit of a controversy going on this week in Carolina as to whether he even plays. I mean, his quarterback rating the last few weeks is in the 40s over the last 3 games. McCaffrey isn't playing. I mean, there's not a huge amount to get worried about in their offense. Defensively, pretty solid, but Newton's the one worry if he's playing and his running ability, 70-odd yards last week, and you just don't know what's going to happen with him. But, I think we can contain him. I cannot see I don't want to come back to this one, but I can't see us having anything other than a comfortable win against Carolina, to be honest with you. It's just Cam Newton is their only real weapon that troubles us, I think.
Who are going to be the key players, do you think, for Carolina, other than Cam himself?
I mean, you've got Chuba in the backfield. He's nothing special. He's a league average back. But I mean, the one player they've got that is actually a game changer is DJ Moore. I mean, he's ball in hand. He's strong. He's kind of a bit like Chris Godwin. You get him the ball in the hand anywhere on the field, and he'll go yak yak yak. But again, I don't see him getting the ball too much. I think
that's yard after catch rather than making a strange noise, presumably.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the pass last week that Cam did on a 4th down.
Oh, it was amazing.
Screen pass.
Yeah. 5 yards behind the receiver and then sort of looked befuddled. Yeah, it was mad.
I mean, if we're criticising Brady for throwing to Gronk 40 yards downfield, I mean, Cam literally just shot putted it into the ground 2 yards in front of his feet. It was brilliant. So honestly, I'm looking forward to the Cam Newton comedy tour special against Tampa this weekend. And I truly hope that we can. I mean, you said bench him again. I mean, bench him, put him back on the bus, Michael Orr style. I don't care where he goes, but I'm looking forward to watching this one. Hopefully, just from a defensive point of view.
After DJ Moore, it does fall off. I'm looking at the Panthers depth chart now, and they list 2 tight ends as starters. So they've got 2 receivers as starters, 2 tight ends, and 1 running back. And both of those tight ends, Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas. First of all, I've never heard of them. That's probably
fantastic name though. Tommy Tremble is the best name in the NFL at the moment.
Sounds like rhyming slang.
It does. After Clinton Dix retired, Tommy Tremble's got to be up there. Yeah.
But there's no depth after them, so there's no other tight ends listed on the roster, despite them having 2 starters listed at tight end. So I think it could easily be a battle of attrition. But I mean, Alex, maybe you can go to the other side of the ball if you want to. But kind of who are the players that you're? Is there anyone that worries you?
No, I think as John said, I think DJ Moore is an X factor. Whether you can get him the ball with Cam quarterbacking, I'm not sure, but he certainly has the ability to break a play. The McCaffrey situation for them, if I was a Carolina fan, I'd be heartbroken because the guy was the best player in the league a year, 2 years ago, and that'd be a massive loss for anybody. They don't have a lot that concerns any of us, I don't think, on the offensive side of the ball. I think defensively, especially given Godwin, there's very little news about Fournette coming out, which I'm not sure what to make of that. Yeah.
Multi-week injury, they're saying though.
It's all very vague. Like you say, certainly for playoffs and things. I think, going to the other side of the ball, as you say, I think Tyler Johnson's due a breakout. I think there's something there. I'll watch him play. He's a very young, spindly version, but there's a bit of Mike Evans type player. There's a touch, and I do mean a touch, of a kind of Randy Moss style physically. And if he can apply that, he's made some stunning catches in the last couple of years, but it's so few and far between. He needs the consistency, and maybe reps will do that. But I don't see Carolina bothering us particularly.
So I guess the question is, you only need to win by 1 point, don't you? So when someone talked about do you rest Mikey? Alex, do you see the next 3 games panning out then? Can you see us sweeping? Because we've got obviously Panthers twice, Jets. It's not the hardest lineup to finish close out.
On paper, we should absolutely sweep. I thought we'd sweep the whole rest of the season before the Saints game. So I don't know what that means. What that means for my opinion, but there's no way you should be losing games to the Panthers and the Jets if you're going to go and have a deep run in the playoffs.
And I guess, as you were saying earlier, Graeme, actually, I don't want to get the maths out and the back of the envelope because who knows what's going to happen in other games. But you start to look at the permutations of who might you get, and might you be home, might you be away. I think it's not a disaster if these games don't end up 49-0, is it?
No, 3 wins. 3 wins are important, and then just take what comes our way. I think we've possibly blown our chance at the top seed because we probably need 3 wins and someone else to lose 2 games type of thing. But I think you just win every game you can and see what happens after that. And I'm the same. I have no kind of qualms about these last 3 games. I think there's no single player out of either of these teams that gives us any problems. I think we should win out. And if we're going to go and challenge the Super Bowl again, then we need to be winning these games. So, yeah, we need 3 wins. I think we'll get 3 wins and we'll take what comes our way. And we've proved last year we can go and win away from home. So hopefully by the end of the season, we get a good fit team and we'll take on all comers in the playoffs.
And so for the Bucs perspective, then in this coming game, who's the player that you think actually this is the player to watch? This is the player that's going to be the difference maker in the game.
Well, I think if Fournette's not going to play, I think Rojo needs to step up now. This is his big time, and I think he can, and I think he will relish the opportunity. So let's see Rojo. Let's see what he's got. If Rojo can step up, and he's got previous against Carolina, as we know, last year. So yeah, Rojo is the man for me.
The problem is part one of the problem is that just don't throw it to Rojo. And the part two of the problem is if you've got Keyshawn Vaughn in because you're trying to give Rojo a breather, for goodness sake, don't throw it anywhere near him. There's a chasm, isn't there? After John, I can see you blowing. There's a chasm after Rojo, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I don't know what Gio's status is this week. Is he?
I think he's IR still.
He's still IR, yeah. He's not eligible to return yet.
Yeah, so there is. You're right. There's a bit of a drop off there. So, but I think you're going to have to run. I think you're going to have to give Rojo the work this week, and let's see what happens. Yeah.
Okay, John. Who's the buck to watch for you?
Assuming that Evans is out, then it's let's see if AB can be the number one receiver again. Does he still have it in him? Let's watch.
Is there an issue, do you think, potentially around fitness or game fitness? Having had a few games away.
He's been suspended the last few weeks, hasn't he? He's not been injured, so he should be
just
fit,
off the pace, or
game fitness is a good point. It's a big problem. Getting back into that match, like Alex, you said, Alex played as well. So get back in that match rhythm, that intensity is going to be tough.
And games are quicker than practice.
For sure.
Yeah. It all seems a little bit. Hang on a minute. Who? What? Well, it's over. Kind of. So, Alex, who's your buck to watch?
I think it's an excellent point you both make. I think I was going to say AB, but I think he may be used sparingly in certain situations if he is being reintroduced, and that could be fitness, that could be scheme, that could be anything. I think the person that I think will have a big game and I think will need it is Gronk. I think having had the issues last week, he'll have seen all the comments, he'll have seen all the press, he'll have seen the video back, and they'd have sat down in the room at $1 and he'll have seen very uncharacteristic mistakes. I think he goes out this week. I think he goes over 100 yards, probably a tutty, as he puts it. And I think that's probably a big part of getting Brady back on the right track as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, as someone who's got Brady starting in the final of the Fantasy Football League this year, I really need as many tuddies as possible. I think Tom got me something like 5 or 6 points this week. It was only because of Phil's ineptitude. Hello, Mr. Jones, that I managed to make it through. So
ineptitude's his middle name.
And speaking of ineptitude, my buck to watch, Tristan Wirfs. Now, he is not inept by any stretch of the floor, but coming back to what you were saying, John, around the psychological side, he's just had probably his worst game as a Buccaneer, and he's still young and he's still very inexperienced, and that confidence is a huge part of playing any position. But I think, right tackle, when oh, crikey, I've got the GOAT behind me and we won the Super Bowl, you could so easily get inside your own head and think about, it all come crumbling down. So I'm hoping that someone's had Tristan Wirfs on a couch this week and sort of, giving him a good quality for his hour.
I think as well behind that, I think they're due a game of multiple sacks and a lot of pressure. And if Cammy is running around in the backfield with nobody much to pass to, nobody much to hand off to, it feels like a game where you could have a 3-sack game for Shaq Barrett, a JPP, a couple, Devon, a couple, that sort of thing. So I think, like all of us, we think it could be a relatively easy day for them in that respect, at least.
7 sacks, you heard it here. Alex Namath Howes has just called it.
7 sacks, yeah. I didn't actually mean cumulatively, but let's go with that. That's this week's competition, Adam, if you're listening. How many sacks? I'll take 7.
Over or under on 7.
That's right.
Surely a couple for Tryon Smith as well after the big
there you go, yeah.
Well.
We could get more sacks than points. That would be depressing, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just, yeah.
So speaking of points, money where your mouth is time. What's the scoreboard going to look like when it ticks down, John?
Tougher than we think on offense. I'm going 20-10.
Yeah, nice safe win. Alex?
30-7.
Oh, that's more comfortable. Let's hope that happens. Graeme?
31-10.
31?
10, yeah. 31-10. 31-10.
Well, that's good. I'm kind of more at the zinc end of the spectrum. I'm going to say something like 14-3.
Oh,
another war of attrition.
No, I think it's going to be taking care of business, and I think we're just going to try and do what it takes and not an ounce more. I do think if it's going well, we might see Mikey not coming in the second half, things like that. But I think it's obviously you've got to get the win. That's and we know what happens if you ease up. Suddenly 14-3 becomes 14-10, becomes crikey.
On that subject, do any of you guys think we see Brady rested at any point, not for a whole game, but parts of games, given what we've got coming up?
No, not this game. Not this game. I think this is really important, but I think you can see that if we win the game on Sunday, I think maybe the next 2 games you will see him maybe playing half a game. Or definitely. I mean, you saw Adrian's comments when he did the sneak, last week. He was like, no more
That's
hits.
enough.
He was like,
That's
let Lenny run it in. Yeah, that's it. So definitely could see that happening.
I think Tom wants to keep going, doesn't he?
That's
the thing. He wants to. Good luck trying to get him out. Like,
he does care about wins. He cares about wins more than stats. But he'd like the stats, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's got 1,000 yards for his career now on the ground. 21 years.
He's got to try and make a big comeback to beat Rodgers out for MVP now, hasn't he? I mean, Rodgers had the PR nightmare to hinder him, and Brady's just had this match to hinder him. So who's going to come out on top?
Yeah.
And it's nice to see these young quarterbacks battling it out for the MVP of the league this year, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
So there you have it. As ever, we give our thanks to our friends at Bucs Report. Make sure you hit all the like and the bell and all of that stuff and give us a thumbs up. Come on, it's Christmas. You've got to give us a thumbs up for Christmas. All we want for Christmas is a thumbs up and a subscribe and a like and a share and a retweet and all that stuff, please. Thank you. So John, Graeme, Alex, thank you all.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Merry Christmas.
Thank you guys for watching. We hope you have a wonderfully Christmassy, healthy, safe, happy festive period and a lovely new year. We will be back in between Christmas and New Year, and hopefully we will be screaming and hollering about how fun it was to watch the Panthers game, because it needs to be good if I'm going to have an excuse to get away from my family on Boxing Day. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Yeah.
That's one benefit of being in Portugal, is that 24th, 25th is mine, so 26th I'll be available.
Perfect. So again, thank you all. Have a lovely festive period, and go Bucks.
Go Bucks. Bye.